Hello, hello, hello. Hey, streamers, what's going on? It is I, Jeff. Here I be. I hope you're having a good day. Frozen. Come on. There you go. Hello. I hope you're having a good day. Just hopping on for a real quick one here. I got a couple setups that I'm trying to do and get out. And then we will carry on with the day. It's funny because it's these seem to be doing okay, these live streams, and it's kind of fun because I get to have some cool conversations, and I'm just working, so that's what the whole point of this is. I'm here in the shop doing my own thing. Feel free to answer your questions. I am live on Twitch and YouTube. I have a lot of stuff and tutorials and all that kind of stuff happening on YouTube as well, so feel free to check that all out where you are watching it. And as you can see there, we've got a couple things to do. So we've got Tom Anderson, which is sitting here. It's a beautiful guitar. So we're about to do a setup on that. And then we might dabble into a bit of a project guitar, but it is a setup on that one as well. So without further ado, let's flip to the bench. And welcome to this Tom Anderson. Now, I'm not too sure of their models or what they do or numbers or anything like that, but it's just a really, really cool quilted top. There's a lot of figure going on here, and this particular one is actually a 40th anniversary. In fact, it's even been signed by him too. So this one's a cool one. So yeah, this is just a setup coming in. It currently has 9 to 46, I believe. And the big thing that I always do when it comes into the shop is measure it. I have software and stuff that I measure it when it comes in and all the specs that it's sitting at. And that's a really, really good way of knowing what your normal is or what your reset button is. Often I get people that say, you know, make it taller, make it shorter, make it higher, make it lower. But if you don't really know what your reference is, it's gonna be kind of tough to put it back to that if something were to go astray. So in this case, we are 9 to 42 actually. So I'm just going to record this real quick. Actually, I'll do later. Let's write that down. Yeah, I like to record on all of the guitars. I'll record. That's a grease pencil. I like to record what the action is, what the string gauges, and what the tuning is. So some people are in E standard and then we change it to a different tuning, thicker strings, etc. So it's always good to kind of know that. I believe this is in E standard. Sure is. And then we are in our string action. So I'm just going to measure the distance of the top of the frets to the bottom of the string. And that is low. Holy moly. It's just a hair above 2/64. On the bass and on the treble, it's 3. So normally I'd go the other way on that, but that's okay. That's what it is here. We'll set it all up. Okay, so on this particular one, we are going to 10 to 46. So we are going to be changing the string gauge. Therefore, it's going to pull everything out of whack. This one is a hardtail, so there is no moving bridge or anything that we have to worry about. I've just started doing actually a setup series. I've been shooting them and editing them as far as like a full length, all the shots and all the zooms on literally every bridge. I think I have 15 different bridges that I'm going to do them on. So Floyd, hardtail, Bigsby, Evertune, mandolin, banjo, bass. So check that out. They will be coming out soon. I'm actually really excited to do those. I really enjoy this. I really enjoy the sharing and talking. I can talk all day. What am I doing? Okay, we're gonna take these off. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff coming up, which is gonna be really cool to be able to share. And these have been kind of cool because this always turns into comments and chats and questions and stuff. So sometimes it's been, how do I do? And sometimes it's I've had a couple pretty deep philosophical questions going on here as well, which is a little out of my realm, but feel free to participate in any way you wish. So these ones are locking tuners, and if you're not familiar with a locking tuner, all it is just a little wheel that's on the back that we can loosen this. Some people think that's actually a tuner or a fine tuner, which is kind of a funny thing, but we just loosen them enough and then the string will just pull right out. It also makes our restring process actually quite a bit easier because you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Having to wind it or anything, you just pull it through, lock it down, and you're good to go. And then the strings are body through, so we're gonna push this through the bottom here. They should come out fairly straight, which they do, but sometimes if they're all curly and stuff, I just snip the ends off. So we'll come back to the strings in just a moment. So the first thing that I like to do on any guitar really that comes in after we take the strings off, these are actually really good condition. These frets look really nice. They're very smooth, but we're gonna make them just a little bit better. And I don't have a camera set up over there yet, but I'll just kind of change to an angle. And all I'm gonna do is basically polish the frets, clean them up a little bit. I don't think I even have to really abrase them. A lot of times I'll use a steel wool. I obviously tape up all of our pickups. That's incredibly important if you're using steel wool. I don't think I'm going to do it on this one though. I think I'm literally just going to buff it because this is a fairly new guitar. So we're just changing everything on our, we're just changing string gauge. So I don't have to go too crazy and remove gook, so to speak. And you can see what it is that I am doing. So you can see there's a little bit more of a polish coming off of the frets here, and that is just a cleaner. So then the next thing that I do at this stage, because we do have a darker wood, an ebony, a rosewood, something along those lines, then I'll actually oil the fingerboard as well. And this isn't to soak it or drench it, it's just enough to add some moisture into the fingerboard. And generally a good tell of if it's really, really dry is that it'll start to, by the time you get to the other side of the neck, it's all gone on the side, which it's kind of actually doing. So I'll let this sit for just a sec. You don't want this to sit too long. We're not trying to make it grimy or anything like that. I just want it to add a little bit of moisture. The other thing that I tend to do at this stage is just give a quick little polish on the section where the strings are gonna go. And then when I'm all done with the guitar and I'm done grabbing it and picking it up and stuff, then we'll clean the surrounding guitar. Here we are. Take all that oil and stuff off of the fingerboard as well. And it makes a pretty big difference already. I can already, I can feel the clean fingerboard. The frets are shining at me. It's nice. And then I'll also do the headstock too. Just removing any of the grime and stuff. A little bit easier to do it, obviously, when there's no string sitting on it, so. Yeah, hardtails are fun because they go very easy, very quickly. So this is always, can sometimes be challenging trying to get it through the saddles, but actually this looks to be pretty easy to do. Because the whole of the saddle and the whole of the actual bridge plate sometimes don't line up, making this process a little bit trickier. But this goes pretty easy. And then all I do is I just actually do them all at the same time. I don't do one string at a time. I'll put it in position. Did those backwards. There we go. And the last two. There you go. So there's all 6 of them, and now all we're going to do is actually just pull them actually almost to full tight, or to full tuning, which is actually kind of the nice part. Like I said, it speeds things up quite a bit. So on the other end, I'm just going to pop it through the hole. There is obviously the same thing as a standard tuning key. That one tightened. And I'll normally turn it. I don't know if you can actually see that, but I normally turn them just a little bit. So I don't have the string coming straight on. I actually have it coming off just a little bit, probably 15 degrees, give or take. It's not imperative, but I just don't lock it when it's completely straight, because when you twist it on the back, it will actually turn a little bit more, and now you have a nice break angle in that tuner. So, and I normally leave a little bit of slack. I've got probably 2 or 3 fingers here, and then I tighten that down. And now the whole idea is that you can lift the whole guitar up, and it's going to be in there and holding and in tune. So one thing that's always a good little trick to do is just pull it up into the saddle, because it's a string through, the string's coming off the bottom side. So I pull the string up a couple times, just make sure, because it just did it to me. I forgot to do that step. And it just gives you extra slack on your string, because it's not all the way in. And then I add just a little bit of a bend to the string. I'm just trying to take out some of that extra stretch, and that is all. I will actually cut it at this point. Bring it up. I don't have to bring it to full pitch as of yet. I mean, you can if you want. Yeah, so just pull it up a couple of times, and you can feel it, and that one did the same thing. You can feel it actually get into its position, and then you can put it into the tuner. Lock that down. So the concept of locking tuners, of course, other than locking and being perhaps a little bit more stable on tuning, is that you also can just get a cleaner wrap around the tuner. You don't necessarily have to put all the winds that you would when you're doing it, which, you know, most people would do probably 2 or 3 winds on the tuning post, but it just, I don't know, makes the whole thing a little bit cleaner. I like locking tuners. Some people think that they're the biggest enemy, but I think it's more so on how you use them. Just because they're locking tuners doesn't necessarily mean you have a Floyd Rose. And I've seen that happen quite a few times. Just in the sense of they don't think that like you're gonna have any tuning issues, and you're like just ripping on the strings and stuff. They will still stretch. It's just that the peg is locked. That's really all it means. Pull that up, put it in. Down. We're good to go there. And then I don't add any slack when I'm doing the stretching. I just kind of have a couple fingers, there's about 2 fingers there, of slack, and I just kind of pull it a little bit. They are going to move on you, but that step just kind of makes it that they move less. You also don't have to crank down on tuners either. I actually just had one in last week that I had to change the, I just had to change the set of locking tuners. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was just that it got over tightened. And actually someone was using pliers to tighten them. You don't have to do that much tension, that's for sure. And the last string. Honestly, in a hardtail, so where the bridge is mounted to the body, there's no flexibility, there's nothing moving. The hardest part of doing a setup is this step, changing the strings. It's really nice when I get these in. I do a lot of really big restorations, neck resets and refrets and finish jobs and all that kind of stuff, so it's really nice actually when you get a shop full of setups, which is what I currently have. All right, there we go. So now we can just bring this up to pitch. So we've gone 10 to 46, so we have changed the pitch. It's not really going to change too much because again, we don't have any tension in our, or any floating, excuse me, in our bridge. So it's not going to really mess with us too much. Oh yeah, my mute's not working. I had to unplug it, right? There we go. So the steps that I always do as setup, I get asked that often actually, is, you know, what do you do first when you do a setup? Everyone's different, everyone has a different way they like to work. For me, it just seems kind of logical to change the strings, put it to full pitch, and see what it's going to do to the guitar. So it could pull on the neck, it could, in this case it won't, but it could pull up on the bridge, it could lower the bridge if we're changing tunings, etc. So I like to put it onto the guitar, put it at pitch, and then go from there. So I think more so knowing what all the adjustments are on your guitar is going to be the better way to go. And the kind of setup series that I'm shooting right now with several different types of bridges, that is exactly the way that I'm going about it. It's just putting a new set of strings on and kind of seeing what happens. And it's just a little bit easier rather than being so focused on a number, you read it, you saw it, whatever. Is being able to know, wow, the strings are way too high. How do I adjust that? Oh, it's this type of bridge. I need to do this and this. That's kind of the way that I'm trying to at least explain that. But that's the reason why I like to do the setups in this stage. So the first thing I'll do is change the strings. Now I have it up to pitch. And so now the first thing I'm going to look at next would be the truss rod. And so that's the curvature of our bow. And I'm just kind of sighting the neck, and we have a pretty significant pull, which checks out. We've changed the gauge. So I'm gonna, actually it's not significant. It is definitely going up. So all I'm gonna do is just give it a small tweak. If not, then I'll go with a longer one. Yes. I ain't gonna do damage, that's for sure. So we'll just give it, honestly. This is another really funny topic, is a truss rod. I shouldn't say funny, but it's another thing that scares a lot of people as far as being able to adjust their guitar, which rightfully so. I actually have a neck that I'm repairing. Oh no, actually I just shipped it out. I just had a neck that I repaired. The truss rod actually went right through the back of the neck because they were tightening too much. So it is definitely a thing. There is obviously something you can be concerned about, but generally speaking, small increment turns is you'll be fine. And if it gets really tough to the part where you can't move it at all, then that's why there's people like me in your area that you can get someone to just give it a quick peek and make sure you're going in the right avenue. So truss rod is good. I'll just keep that out in case we need a little bit more. And now the next thing that we'll do is, actually it looks really good. I know that our action was a little low, probably for preference, so we'll probably just have to come up a little bit. The other thing that I always kind of do in here, I'm a guitar player first. I mean, obviously this is my repair shop and this is what I do, but in the sense that I don't get too stuck up on numbers. Every single guitar has to go out at these specs. Every setup has to be at these specs. I think the guitar will tell you if it's good or not. That's my philosophy. That's the way that I do my setups. I don't think I've ever had a complaint on a setup, to be honest. And that's just one of those things where it's like, it doesn't feel good. So yes, I'll set it up to kind of factory spec or somewhere around there. And then I just play it and go, wow, that feels really uncomfortable because the action's too high on the high end or whatever the case might be. So I'll kind of do that first. And even though the numbers are not where they should be, that's why I kind of say in that, like the action might be a little bit lower than what a lot of people would like. This actually doesn't feel too bad. I'm not feeling any buzzing. I'm kind of just looking around the nut, especially considering that we've just changed our string gauge. I don't know if the 9s are what these guitars come with from the factory, but we may have to look at our nut slots, and I'll do that in just a second. But that actually feels pretty good. So what I'll do is I'll take a look at our nut slot, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. The first thing, if you have a tuner, we can just tune it up. So right now I'm just tuning my open E, and now I'm just gonna play the first fret. And I'm a little bit sharp. And of course, the harder you press, the more sharp that is. So it's not necessarily always the best way to measure that. But I'm just gonna kind of take a peek across the board here. Yeah, so the A is very, very close. But obviously you want to be seeing just that +1. And you have the ability to change just the tuning. Yeah, see, they're just a hair out. All of them are just a little bit above. Actually, those two are good. So when you have a bit of a wider string going into the nut slot, then what's going to happen is it's going to just not sit fully in the nut slot, and that's what makes the string sharp. So if you're ever playing and the first 3 or 4 frets are becoming sharp when you're playing, that's probably the first thing that I'd look at, especially if you're changing string gauge, is that the nut slot actually needs to be filed, and that's what we need to do here, ever so slightly, like just a quick little push, and then that will be what we're looking at there. So yeah, sorry, I was going to say that is one way to do it, is by obviously using a tuner. It's one of the accurate ways of doing it without pulling out fancy measurement tools. I do have those as well. But if you just sitting at home, you don't have all these tools, the one way is just to check your tuner, make sure your guitar's in playing position. The other thing that you can do is, to be honest, there's 2 different ways that are similar, but there are a couple different ways you can do it. I'm going to just take the patch cable out so I can rest it. But what we'll do is press down on the first fret. So you're going to press down on the first fret, and then you're going to press in the 3rd fret and behind it. And this is kind of a playing test that you can see how much of a kind of snap. What we're really looking at is how high these strings are off of the fret. And so when you tap this down, it should be sitting, or should be resting pretty close to the top of the fret. It doesn't have to be a mile off, and obviously you don't want it to just be sitting on the fret, because now that's going to tell you that it's too sharp. It's going to be too flat because the string is too low. So when you have this pressed and we have just a little bit of clearance on there, that's telling us that the string might be a little high. And one of the things that my favorite way of doing it, I have those really expensive measuring and tools, but honestly, it's a set of feeler gauges. And I actually went and bought the smaller ones rather than the typical longer ones, because they work really well. Almost in all cases, you can get away with 3 settings. A 20, of course that's thou, so 20 thou, 18 thou, and 16 thou, which is what I'm doing here. Or you can also do 22, 29, so it kind of depends on what your playing action is. This kind of comes from personal preference a little bit. But those are the three that I like. And then the way that we do it is very similar, but you're actually putting the feeler gauge on the first fret, and we're putting that above, and now we're just pressing down. And in fact, that's like probably half of a pull of a fret file on that. Our A has a little bit more clearance there, so that's going to be a couple strikes. But this is a really good way of knowing it, because now we know that our clearance on that fret is 20,000, and that is just a really nice kind of comfortable feeling. And I do that for the first and second, and then I'll flip it to the 18, and then you do the third, which again is just a little bit out, and then we do the other three from the bottom side. So now I'm still using the 18 on the G. Yeah, these ones are actually good, which that one is. And then the 16 is the last two. These ones I presume are going to be okay, which they are. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we have just like half of a pull on the first couple of strings, and then our nut slot will be good for us changing the string gauge, which is also an important thing to do, or to know rather. I'm actually just going to throw a clip-on tuner on here just so I can keep putting it back in position. Get rid of it. Shoot. But yeah, this is one of the most common things, especially if you're changing string gauge, is to just check your nut slots, because there's probably a really good chance that they are not going to fit correctly, and that can obviously impact your tuning and your stability, which is what we would be dealing with, especially when we get to the intonation stage. I'll give that just another pull, and that A, same thing. Another thing I really like to use is this abrasion stuff. It's Mitchell's abrasive cord. Might be a little, where are we here? This one. Yeah, it's a little bright. But it's Mitchell's abrasive cords and tapes. And it's basically kind of like dental floss, but it's got sandpaper on it. Comes in a whole bunch of different thicknesses, but it works really well for nut slots. I also do them if I'm doing any saddle work, kind of the same thing if I'm filing down saddles. And I'm just running it through a little bit. And this is just gonna smooth out those grooves. So obviously once we get our saddle to the, or our nut to the right height, then we can just pop a little bit of that in there. And it just smooths it out. So we'll check with our 20,000 again. And there we go. Our A is good. Yeah, so everything's playing in tune. Our G might be, let's take a look at the G. So that is going to be 18 coming from the bottom. Well, that's good. Maybe what we'll do is just give these nut slots a quick touch here. So yeah, just doing some setups, hanging out, doing the thing. Having fun. This is a very common question that I get with my clients, just asking if they can kind of sit in the shop and watch me fix their guitar, and unfortunately I can't always That's the word I'm looking for. I can't have that. So this has been kind of a cool alternative, and I've done this off and on, and like I said, I'm digging it, and there's actually, it's nothing crazy. I don't expect it to be. It's a 4-hour live stream, but often the live streams people have been going back and watching, so I do appreciate. There's a whole bunch of them on YouTube. I do stream on YouTube and Twitch, but yeah, some of the past ones are cool. For the time being, most of the stuff that I've been doing on the live streams have just been setups. I'm trying to figure out how I can get into the bigger jobs. I do obviously a lot of restoration and stuff, but tools and sand and paint and cameras don't really get together so well, so I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do on that. But if you have any suggestions, please feel free to let me know, because I would appreciate doing that. Like I said, I do enjoy sharing, and I do enjoy the community. Working in my shop by myself, the human interaction is more than welcome. So there we go. Cool. So now our nut slots are good. Again, we changed our string gauge, so that is what we want to be looking at. So change the strings, adjust the truss rod, took a look at the nut slots. Now we can take a look at our string action, which actually feels pretty good. But there are a couple different things that you can do. Some people have a personal preference on what it is that they want to do with their saddles. There is actually a rhyme to it. Some people like them to look cosmetically pretty, which sure. But as far as the purpose of them, on this particular one, we have the adjustments on each saddle. This is my preferred style of saddle on any bridge, is having individual control. The triple, or the 3-barrel on your like telly, I don't think my telly here has that. Those ones are a little less less accurate in my opinion, because you have to kind of like find the happy medium between everything. But in any case, you can adjust them individually. Some people like them flat, depending on the radius, so the curvature of our neck. You may like a flat feeling across your strings. You might like your bass strings to be a little bit higher, going down to the treble strings. That's the cool thing about being able to do all these adjustments, and that's kind of the reason why I do these as I go, is because once you understand what all these adjustments are doing for you, then you can set up your own instrument any way you please. And I think that's a really cool thing. I mean, obviously I'll take your guitar and I can charge you for it, but you can also do it at home. And it's a really cool thing to be able to do. Also, if something goes wrong, well, while you're playing it on stage, or, you know, wherever it is that you're doing it, etc. But yeah, this particular one, they do have a bit of a curvature, which for me, my personal preference is to actually do that. I do have a little bit of a curvature on there, where the strings kind of naturally arc up and come back down, but you can also tier them. It's 6 individual saddles, so you've got 6 different heights. Doesn't really make a difference. It really does make a difference on the playability. And then if something is going higher or lower, changing our string intonation, you can adjust that from the back. So this is a really cool this is a really easy way of being able to adjust your playability. It's just how that arc of your strings are. So that's why I like this, is because this will give you a lot of adjustment. So I might just bring these bass up just a touch, because they are pretty low. And if anything, I normally like to do the treble side to be a little bit lower. So typically the bigger strings, you're also hitting it a little bit harder. We've gone from 9s to 10s, so we probably will notice that difference. But also, you're typically going to dig into your lower end a little bit more. So having a little bit more clearance on your strings, just so we don't fret out, is always ideal. So I'm giving them about a half, maybe a quarter turn, and I'll go to kind of the higher part of the D. So I'm just kind of raising the lower part of this curvature, and we'll see what happens. So then we want to tune it. You can always tell a really high quality bridge too, if you make any sort of adjustment and your tuning doesn't change too much. That's when you know you have a really nice one. If you make a small adjustment to your intonation and it flies off like crazy, it's probably not the best quality components you're dealing with. It actually feels really good. Yeah, we're not getting any buzzing on that. There's not any kind of uncomfortable spots. Sometimes when you start moving up, it can become a little tough, but yeah, that feels actually really nice. I like that. As I said, I'm setting them up to kind of a feel more than a number or an adjustment. I might just bring this high up just a touch, just to kind of match the curvature that we have, and that will be that. And I am keeping that curve kind of a sad face, if you will, to the saddles. So we have a bit of an arc to the strings rather than tiered in 6 steps up. And we kind of have this sloping arc. So the highest spot is in the middle of our D and G, and then they just kind of come down on the sides. Really, the only time that doesn't work is if you've got like a 7.5 compound radius, so like an older style style neck on like a Fender or something. But if you have anything that's like a 7.25, that is just a very round surface. You just almost have to go straight on with it. But you do you. Cool. So now this should have us in the playability factor. As far as what it feels like, this is kind of the last thing that we're adjusting for the playability, in the sense of how it feels. It feels good. I actually might bring those high strings back down. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm just gonna bring them down actually, just like a quarter, an eighth of a turn. Very, very light, just a touch high. I think it's just on the B and the E. The D actually feels pretty good. The G feels pretty good. And that should be that. There we go. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you can actually hear that. We have just a touch of fret noise, which is it's saying one of two things. One, the string is too low, which it's borderline, or that there are some high spots on the frets. In this particular guitar, it's a very high quality guitar. Being a Tom Anderson, I doubt that it's actually a fret. Everything looks really good on that. I think we might be just a scooch too low. I think that's an official measuring term, scooch. Yeah, so we're just oh, that's what's happening. Yeah, so we're just floating around 4/64 is kind of where I'm setting this all up to. And then kind of finally finding the happy chemistry between the strings. Come up just a little bit. Now that, of course, we have a little bit of a thicker string, changing our string gauge, we are going to have to come up a little bit on our saddles. Nothing extreme, though. It feels really, really nice. I think we can make it just a touch better. We'll tune that. Ooh. I mean, you don't even really have to tune it, to be honest. You can just play it and feel it at this point. So I'm like really digging into it, and I'm not getting much fret noise anymore. Feels good. So really a good measurement point as far as kind of checking your angle, just as far as you playing your guitar, is the 12th fret. And you can just fret it, see if you're getting some fret noise, if you're getting a lot or not enough or anything like that. It's a kind of a good indicator because that's the middle of the bow of the neck. So I have just a little bit of fret noise, but it's not an uncomfortable, it's not a lot of fret noise. The no buzz guitar, the action would be pretty high. This guitar is, yeah, this guitar is built for speed, so a little bit lower action is probably where it is. And the action that was on it when we picked it up, and again, that's the reason why I record that when I first get the guitar, is because I want to see what it's been set up to, and it was very, very low. Every note was fretting out. So whether that was player preference, whether that went to another shop, doesn't matter. That's just where it was when I got it, and that's the reason why I like to record that. So we are definitely better than where it was, and it's an acceptable amount of fret pause in my opinion. If every single note the whole way up was just a crazy amount, then no, that's not acceptable. But the odd spot, depending on how much pressure you're playing, that kind of stuff, then you know that you're in a good spot. Yep, nice. Okay, so we are now done that step. So that is the string action. So now the last thing that we're going to do is just take a look at the intonation. And all that really is measuring the distance from the nut to the 12th and the 12th to the saddle. And where that really comes into play, or in English, is just that as you're playing up the neck, you may notice that your tuning starts to waver a little bit. And what that is it's the intonation. So all you really do, and everyone does this a little bit differently, but put this in playing position. Put the guitar in playing position, don't have anything resting on the neck. I'll just see if I can do this in shot, there you go. Tune your string open. In this case we are in E. Gotta get a tuner cam. Yeah, so we are perfectly in tune, E, there's no wavering or anything happening, and then just fret your 12th fret. And you'll see in this case we are just a touch sharp, so that's telling us that the string is too short. So what we need to do is actually take the saddle, and move it back. And that's what these little screws are in the back are for. So we'll just be very careful, we don't want to scratch the top, and we'll just give it a little bit of a twist. We're just going to tighten it because we want to pull that saddle back. And generally this is like, an eighth, a quarter, a 16th of a turn. It's not a full, you don't have to crank it, obviously, unless it's way out, but you shouldn't have to move it too much. So that's in tune, 12th fret. So we need a little bit more. Do this up. I'll be uncomfortable so you can see what I'm doing. So yeah, just tuning, making sure it's perfectly in tune, open. And then 12th fret. And that just a smallest amount more. That should be that. I don't know what just happened there. It jumped up quite a bit. So that's in tune. There we go. Now that's in tune. Okay. Onto our A. In tune. In tune. Nice. I used to do, when I first kind of started this, when I was doing my own guitars, like before I was doing my shop, I used to do the harmonic on the 12th and then fret. But I found that it wasn't quite as accurate, and then it turns out that actually a lot of my colleagues in the repair industry do the same thing. They tune open and then they fret, and they just find that it's a much more accurate measurement rather than the harmonic and then the fretted note. Though to the ear, you can hear that a little bit better. You can hear the difference between your harmonic and your fretted note, but as far as your tuner is concerned, I would recommend just doing an open string or an open pluck. Get that in tune. There we are. And then your 12th fret. So that one's a little sharp. So that means our string's a little short, so we need to pull the saddle back. It's coming back this way, and that's going to make it a little bit longer, which is then going to flatten the note, which is what you're looking for. So in tune open, 12th fret, bang on. Perfect. On to the B. Flat. That is good. And our E. Nice. There you go. It's all done. And then of course you have to do your test song. But yeah, that's that is a GG. That is a good guitar. And at this time too, it's always a good thing, just while you have it on your bench, you might as well check all the electronics. I normally actually do that off the get-go as well, so I'll just make sure that the toggle's indeed toggling and all of my volume knobs do what they're doing. There's no crackling or anything like that. This one isn't a huge deal because it's not a pickguard, but if you had a Strat and you did all this and one of the pickups was dead, now you have to take the strings off to take the pickguard off, so. So that works. I don't know if that's a coil split. Sounds like it's more, so that actually might be a boost. I'm not too sure, but it works. There you go, all done. Yeah, that is a nice guitar, that's for sure. So that was kind of the whole thing, just as I kind of clean up my work area here. But that's the whole thing. So we just put a new string gauge on, and it did in turn change our playability on the guitar itself. So then we just adjusted everything. We did the nut slot, and then, sorry, we did the truss rod first, and then we did the nut slot, and then we did string action, and then we did our intonation. That's it. On a hardtail guitar, that's it. Those are the only adjustments that we have, and it's nice when that is the only thing you have to deal with on the guitar. And then we just give her a little spit shine. I'm not endorsed or sponsored or anything by them, but I really like the Music Nomad products. There's a couple other companies I'm actually working on trying to get some samples from. A little bit more, I don't want to say boutique, but they're not your mainstream cleaners, but I know a lot of guitar techs that are using them, so we'll see if that works. I don't know if it will or not, but in any case, the Music Nomad stuff is really nice. The fret cleaners, the polishes and stuff, I really like what they do. But I do find myself using different polishes depending on the finish. So for example, if I had a guitar that, and you can see what happens here is that it starts to become a little oily. It will wipe off because this is just the moisture. But if I was doing, for example, an ebony guitar, this will tend to streak on it. And it's not anything against the cleaner. All of them do that. The Planet Waves ones do it. The Gibson one does it. The PRS one does it. And I'm not really too sure why, to be honest, but the only one that it seems to work, and I can't even think of what they're called now. It's not really important that I'm talking about it because it's not in front of me, but it's the one that smells like cinnamon. I can't remember which one that one was. But anyway, it worked very, very well on the high gloss ebony finish. So, but this one is also a really high gloss because it is so neat and shiny. So often what I'll do is I'll kind of grab a clean chamois. So there's no cleaners on it at all. No edges on the cloth, and then I just kind of wipe it off and gives us our really nice finish. Case it goes. We are. Come on. See, I'm trying to be all fancy, and this is what happens. Okay, so the other one that we have, I don't know how much. What am I looking at here? I do actually have to go deliver some guitars today. Hang on one sec. Message these people. All right, sorry about that. Cool. All right. Yes. So the next thing is a little bit of perhaps a project. We'll see what happens here. That is in here. And that is a very cool Stingray. Which actually feels pretty good. This one here is an interesting bass. These are actually really cool. I actually have, is it this one that I have? I actually don't even know. Mine personally, but anyway, this one is just a really cool finish. It's a purple one. It was an online deal, so I just got to make sure that we are taking a look at it and just kind of checking it over and make sure everything plays well on it and it feels good. And we'll kind of see what happens on that. We're not actually changing the strings on this. It's more so just kind of making it playable. This particular one, there was a complaint just that the action is so high, and you can perhaps see that. I can like basically stick my finger in here. I don't really have anything to put in there, but you get the idea. It's quite high. The action the whole way up is quite high. So that can be one of a couple different things. That could be the neck itself, which actually isn't too bad. We don't have a huge bow in the neck. It's probably actually going to be from the saddles, which are also fairly low. We'll have to see. We might have to whatever. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So let me record this. I should have done this before. In future, I think that's what I'll do. Check this. If you are coming into this, I appreciate you coming in to check it out. I am live streaming on a couple different platforms, but it's really just as I'm kind of working on the bench. I'm still trying to find some sort of schedule that works for me, honestly. I work all sorts of times, but I can't always have a camera going for the work I'm doing. Neck resets and wood and glue and paint and stuff. It's not the easiest thing, but I'm trying to come up with some sort of idea. So I kind of like let a couple setups build up, and then I go live. That's what I've been doing. Music's going a little hard here. So yeah, that's quite high. We are at 8/64 and 7. Probably not quite where we're gonna want that. I'm just recording this as I do on every setup, and that just allows me to know what it's actually set up to. So if I need to go back to it or whatever, then I do. Also, it just allows me to know when we say, go higher, go lower. 45 to 100, which it is. Probably, what am I looking for? Tuner. Just an E standard there as well. Cool. All right, well, let's see what we can do. I already know that I am gonna take the strings off, and we're gonna do the same thing. We'll clean up the fingerboard and clean up the frets. These frets are looking a little rough. Not so much as damage, they're just, I don't know, there seems to be something kind of on them, some sort of grime on them. So that's always the first thing that I kind of take a look at. But before I do that, I'm actually gonna take a look at this, I'm actually gonna take a look at the nut, because this looks quite high. I don't know if this is good or not, but we'll measure this first before I take the strings off, just because it's easier. And then if we make a mess with the nut and stuff, then we can clean it up on the next step. Yeah, so I'm just checking the intonation. So I'm just holding the bass. You want it to kind of sit in playing position. You don't want to be resting it anywhere. So I'm just kind of holding it off of my bench, so it's not the best angle, but doing the same thing I did before. Open string, E, and then 12th fret, which is pretty high. Now that also could be our intonation, so that's, oh yeah, no, this definitely is too high. This fret is quite a bit higher. All right, so it's not gonna need a lot, but this one, actually it's not fitting in there great either. But this one, what we'll have to do is, oh, actually, I don't know if you can, probably not the easiest thing to see, but this, oh, you can kind of see it. The break angle on these nuts are actually going in the wrong direction. When I say that, it's not straight through. It should be passing straight through there. That actually should be sitting a little bit more like this. My face is blocking that. Should be sitting a little bit more off the edge, because what's happening is it's sitting a mile off of the fingerboard. All right, well, let's see if we can come down a little bit and see what happens. Maybe what we'll do is try and set it up a little bit first, and then when we get close to the end, we'll take the strings off and clean up the fingerboard. That's not it either. There we go. That will do. So I'm just going to lower this quite a bit for now, and then right now we're trying to adjust this very small section of the nut, but the action is so high off the neck, it's kind of impossible to see what the actual culprit is. And this will allow us to, yeah, just have a little bit of a better idea. So that should be, yeah, I was gonna say it should be pretty flat now, our tuning. Still very high. We don't have a whole heck of a lot more room to go. In fact, it's resting on the plate. Oh, but the bridge is actually sitting on top of the pickguard. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is. It's bent, and it's also coming off of the back of the pickguard. All right. This one is going to require a little bit more work, I am afraid. I don't think I can do this one currently. I do actually have to run out, so... yeah, actually, for the time being, what we'll do is we'll take this pickguard off, and we'll make this fit. Because there's a little bit of a gap. I don't know if you can even see this in the camera, but there is this lineup. The bridge plate is actually sitting on the pickguard, and so it's making this wedge up, which is making these saddles sit funny. So I feel as though we'll just eliminate this issue, at least for now. I think the bridge may have also been flat as well, or sorry, bent as well. And if that's the case, then we'll have to take basically the whole guitar apart. Pull out a hammer. It's always my favorite thing to do. I don't mean that sarcastically. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna move. Nope. All right. I'll just take the tension off the neck. Yeah, I'm still not too sure about that nut, but it's kind of a cart before the horse thing here, so we'll just get this loose so we can take the neck off without anything. I have a feeling we're going to be pulling this bridge off too. Don't know if that's going to fix the problem or not. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this back plate off, or at least loosen it so that we can pull the pickguard off. Serious wood screws in here. There's 6 screws on this neck plate. These suckers are really holding on, so I don't think it's going to come loose. I think we just have to take the neck right off, which is okay. Thankfully, it's a bolt-on neck. Okay. A little too hard for me. handle that. Trying to reset a neck. Yeah, this neck still isn't moving, so at least these neck bolts are doing their job. Wish I had a... There you go. Use my other hand, it feels a little bit better. Still connected. Yeah, you can see as I'm trying to move the neck, actually you might not be able to see that, but the pick guard's moving with it. It's wedged in here. So it's preventing it from sitting flat on the guitar, which I won't have it. There we go. Okay. Next off. Now this should be able to come off. Wow, that is tight. Holy moly. Well, it turns out I might jump into this. I can see that this is bent anyway, so we'll take this off and just give it a quick little hammer and flatten this out. Like I said, unfortunately, we have a couple of things that are happening here, so it's tough to see what is the main culprit. But I feel as though we're going to be doing a neck shim on this one. So I'll work on this one for a little bit, but we might put this on the back burner. That's what I was trying to accomplish. I'm just taking a file to the pickguard, kind of open that up a little bit. Which actually would be the... If I can move this... Well, no, because it's stuck on this too. I'm going to have to just flatten this off just a touch, I think. It's come back flat on this part. It's going to do something like that. Actually, but the bridge is not sitting on it correctly, so thankfully we just have to warp this piece of plastic a little bit, and that should get us there. sometimes this is what you're given. I mean, even yourself. I mean, obviously, and every once in a while, I get one of these types of projects in the shop, and it's not a quick and easy job like I thought it would be. Like, this is going to be a bit of work now, which it's okay. That's what I'm doing. That's what I do. But as far as scheduling and planning, sometimes this is what this is what happens. You're like, oh yeah, that. Ooh, yeah, about that. Yeah, the profile actually isn't too bad. I'm just looking at it on the neck because it sits right. It's butted right up against the back of this neck. But I can probably actually bring this just a little bit here. I think what I'll do is I'll do it on either side, so it's a little bit more of a cosmetic thing. So I'll file this in a touch. So it's just kind of adding this shape, and just bringing this back just a little bit. We'll kind of do just a little bit on this and then bring it back accordingly. And then the rest of it will take up on the back side. And what we just need to do is make this basically flat so that it butts up against the flat edge on the bridge. Because it was sitting, you know, for exaggerated purposes, but this is what it was doing. It was sitting on top of the bridge and it was throwing the angles of the strings way up there. Because we still need this string to lower, and we have no more room on our saddles. They are as low as they can go. So this will be the first thing to do, and then we string it all up and see kind of what happens. And then the next thing that we're gonna have to do is then take a look at probably some neck shims, and then kind of change the step up angles. Because what's happening is that the body strings off the body are at one level and the neck is too low. So if we bring the neck up closer to the height of the neck of the body, sorry. So let's say that again. So the strings on the body are set quite high and the neck is sitting low in the pocket. So if we shim the neck up, it will come close to the same angle, which is I think what we need to do. This is one thing that we need to do. And then the next is to shim the neck and bring it up so that it comes a little bit closer. I mean, if you want your guitar to play well and in tune, but who am I? That's just the same size as my file, so that's good. In fact, so I gotta mute real quick here. Sorry about that. I am open for business, so I do get phone calls and stuff happening, so it makes things a little... Obviously can't be streaming that, so... All right. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so now that just sets a timer for me, so I don't have a ton of time now, which is okay. I don't know if I want to continue this maybe in the morning. I might do that. I might continue this in the morning. See if we can get this shaped a little bit. Or perhaps just even do this off stream. Watching a guy file is probably not the most exciting thing to do, so... Oh, I just got moved up. All right. Got about... Just wrapping up this pickguard, trying to make this all fit together. Not the most exciting thing, I get that, but unfortunately this is part of the job. This is just kind of chilling out with me while I'm working on guitars, so appreciate you being here. Yeah, hanging out on Twitch and on YouTube. And this is just what I do. This is just a day in the shop hanging out. So right now just trying to make this all fit together. Having some alignment issues. That's getting a little bit better. It's got some room to breathe now. Just take out these peaks and I think that should be okay for this part. I'm sure that sounds awesome. So what I'm trying to do is just get this kind of as close to the end of that as possible. Actually, I think if I just take out more of that angle, it'll be good. This angle. And then I'll take out the rest on the backside. What was happening here is that the bridge, I've had to take the bridge off as well, was actually sitting on top of the pickguard, making the strings be quite a bit higher than desired. Yeah, maybe just a little bit more, and then that should be the shape there. A little bit in the corners. Better. That's still really tight too. I can see that probably sounds awful. My apologies if it is. And that should be just enough to get it over there. Yep. Maybe just a touch more. And often this stuff is really these types of jobs. Just all these little things all add up to the playability. There we go. So that's at least acceptable. That is now about the same feeling of the cavity, so that will be good because the neck obviously is sitting in the back of this cavity. Actually, we could probably do a little bit right here. But this was covering it, so the neck was smashing into this. The plate was sitting on top of it, so thankfully it's just plastic, so it's really easy to manipulate into what we need it to do. A little bit more on that front side, and then we'll just take the rest out on the back, and then that should be the alignment. And then I think I'm gonna have to call it there for now, and what I might do is actually just save this, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow. I have a couple meetings that I have just been called for, so it's kind of the joy of being open for business while I'm doing this. Hopefully that lines up on this. Yeah, that feels good. So now that isn't blocking the wood here, and on this, actually I'll just take these strings off for now. I think they're actually gonna have to come out anyway because the bridge is actually bent, which is not helping any of these alignment issues. That is so much better. So that fits. I can see all the holes here, but this is still just a little bit out. So all I'm gonna do, there's a pretty big taper on the bottom of this. Yeah, this all lines up, so that's nice. And I can see all these holes perfectly. There's a little bit of a taper on the backside of this pick guard, and I think I'm just gonna kind of eliminate that. Actually, doing this has prevented us from having this big flat spot on the backside of the bridge by like a whole bunch. So I just actually have to hit it, and I'll just do that on my disc sander real quick. And actually, that's very close, so that's nice. Not that it's really the end of the world, but of course I try to make it, every job that I'm doing, I'm trying to make it look like I was less there as possible, if that makes any sense. Yeah, if I just eliminate that taper, that will give us all the clearance we need. So yeah, I'm just gonna start the disc sander, and I'm just gonna eliminate just this flat, I'm just gonna flatten this. There's a big taper that's coming down, and I'm just gonna eliminate that. It'll be 5 seconds. You always want to be careful if you're ever doing pickguard stuff. Just be careful with power tools because the heat will melt the pickguard. Ask me how I know. Okay, so in theory, that should line everything up. This goes on here. The neck can sit on here. Just kind of holding this in place. Goes there, and that lines up there. All right, well there's the first thing. But yeah, I got a lot of movement there. Actually, just the peak of that I'll touch. Take it off. And this now lines up as well. And actually, we've given ourselves a little bit of clearance room, which is perfect. Cool. So yeah, I just had to touch just the corner of this. And unless your clients are watching your live streams, they don't even know all the work you put into it, so. That's all good. believe that that should do it. Perfect. Or actually, it might not be bent. It may have just been the way it was sitting there. So let's put this in first. I'll just kind of put in 4 screws. I don't need them all to be in. Actually, whatever. This is a teardrop. It's not like it's a lot of screws. So one thing that I always recommend doing when you're putting screws in is actually to screw it backwards, and then the screw itself will find its old holes, or its old, I guess, groove threads. And then you're not gonna strip the hole or make it any larger than it needs to be. Which is always a nice thing. A couple of these feel a little loose. They're still catching, but they're, if we were to just kind of twist it, there's a good chance that we would just wreck that hole. There's that, and then yeah, these line up too, which is nice. Oh, this was sitting on the... Oh, I know what it is. It's sitting on the ground wire. But it was sitting on the ground wire funny, making it rise up. That checks out. And I normally do these screws, like when I'm putting a bridge on or putting one back, I will do it majority tight. I don't do the whole thing. And then it gives me a little bit of wiggle room so I can kind of realign everything. So I'll put them all in place so it's not going to fall off the guitar, but I'm not going to go crazy on it at this moment. These ones here. And it's sitting flat. Beautiful. So we've all that work just so that this edge was sitting on wood, but it will pay off in the end. I know I'm probably gonna have to replace this nut. I'm just wondering if I should just do that with the neck off. It doesn't really make a difference. Sometimes these jobs start to kind of go down a little bit of a different avenue, and like I said, for kind of like the videos and whatever else that I'm working on is more so of here's what all these adjustments do, so you can work on your own instrument and be able to fix the issues that you're having rather than copying it to a factory spec or a number or something like that. I don't know why, that's just, I've always enjoyed working in that sense of being able to to know what it is that I'm doing or how to make the adjustment accordingly. So I still have a feeling that we're gonna have to shim the neck here, so we'll have to see how that goes, but we'll put this all back up, put it back together, and that's probably gonna have to be all I can do today. Probably be back in the morning tomorrow. We'll carry on with this one and might actually dabble into trying to see if we can do a refret on a live stream. Kind of hoping that this solves it. If this all lines up and works together, that would be amazing. Just onto the last bolt. 6-bolt neck plate, so this neck isn't going anywhere. See it, the finish line, it's right there. Just get this stuff off the bench. Should actually be able to see pretty quick. We can probably just put like the one string on and we'll see if it fixed all of our problems or not. If you're just tuning in now, we've gone down this huge rabbit hole. All we're trying to do is lower the string action. So we're trying to lower how high these strings are. And that's when we realize that the bridge isn't in, but it's sitting on the pick guard, which doesn't fit in the neck pocket because the neck is off the alignment. So kind of starting to put it all back together again and hope that things work, but yes, that is looking much more acceptable. And this will be the last string here, and then we'll see where we are. It looks a lot better. It's funny how much of a difference that makes. But I mean, that's a pretty substantial thickness when we're talking about lowering our string action by 1/1000th of an inch. It's sitting on top of the pickguard is not helping the situation. So. In fact, that's sitting on the fingerboard. I don't know if you can hear that, but they're all buzzing on the frets. That's a good sign. Once we start putting tension on the neck, it should pull up a little bit. That feeling. It's pretty tight. Okay, so now we're back up to pitch, so we're in E standard. And let's see. Well, it's still high. It is certainly still high, but it's better. Yeah, that's still quite high. So we have no more give in our bridge. It's all of the saddles are actually resting on this plate. So saddles, not the easiest thing to kind of show, it's all reflective, but all of these saddles are sitting directly on this plate. It has no more, it can't go any lower. So, I mean, you could just say, well, can't fix it, can't go any lower, can't do anything about it, which, you know, is not wrong. But what I will do is actually create a neck shim for this, and what we'll do is bring the neck up. So if you think of this as a neck shim, it will sit in the neck pocket underneath there, and it will just kind of fill in this gap, and that's going to bring the neck up higher, so therefore it will lower the strings. If that made any sense at all. So that's the next step. Truss rod actually looks pretty good. It's not a big bowing truss rod. We do have a bit of a bow in it, but it's not enough that we're going to make that up with our action. And then the other nice thing about doing a shim too is that once you do have that and you have raised it up, now you actually get the adjustment part of your saddles. Because this is all low, all of the little ends are poking out. Let me show you that. All of these little ends are actually poking out, which if you're resting on there will hurt by the end of the night. So this is going to a very busy player. So it would be different if you're just kind of sitting, not that it matters, but if you're sitting in your bedroom just kind of plucking on notes, that's one thing, but constantly standing over it all night, that will get to be really annoying. So what we'll do is do a neck shim, and I'll have that done for tomorrow. We'll go again. I'll just keep this as it is. We'll go again tomorrow in the morning. And like I said, I think I'll attempt to do a refret on the live stream as well, and I think that will be the day tomorrow. So for that, I am going to have to run. I do have a couple appointments I have to go to, so I appreciate you checking this out. Feel free to give the live stream a like if you're on YouTube. It's also over on Twitch. There's all sorts of things coming up. I appreciate you being here. I hope that this brought you one step closer to some happier strumming. We'll see you next time.